All right, welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that's not just making headlines. It's pretty much guaranteed to be on your UPSC exams.
Yeah.
India's relationship with the Taliban.
Interesting.
Now, I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
India and the Taliban. Isn't that kind of a contradiction?
Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it?
And honestly, you're not wrong to be a little puzzled.
Right.
It's a very strange situation.
What we're seeing here is India kind of walking this diplomatic tightrope. They haven't officially recognized the Taliban government.
Right.
But yet at the same time, they're engaging in these pretty high-level talks with them.
Yeah.
So it's this delicate balancing act going on.
Yeah.
Driven by, well, a whole mix of things.
Yeah.
Security concerns, humanitarian commitments.
Of course.
And, let's not forget the constantly shifting, power dynamics of the region.
Oh, absolutely. That whole region is just, it's a constant chess match.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's get started with something recent that really caught my eye.
Okay.
This meeting in Dubai
Yeah.
between India's Foreign Secretary, Vikram Misri,
Right.
and the Taliban's acting foreign minister,
Uh-huh.
Maulawi Amir Khan Muttaqi.
Yes.
And this wasn't, just a quick handshake and photo op. This is the first high-level meeting between the two sides.
Yeah, and this meeting is it's a significant escalation
Okay.
from the previous, engagements that were just at the joint secretary level.
Right.
So this is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
This is showing that India is taking a more proactive approach now,
Okay.
recognizing that they really need to have this direct dialogue,
Yeah.
even if it means talking to, a regime that they don't even officially recognize.
Right. And this brings us to probably one of the biggest issues for India.
Yeah.
Security.
Huge, yeah.
Particularly the worry about Pakistan-based terror groups
Right.
like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, using Afghanistan as basically a home base.
Right, a safe haven, yeah.
This isn't a new worry for India at all.
Yeah.
But the Taliban takeover has definitely made it a much bigger deal.
It's definitely amplified it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to think about it from India's point of view. I mean, they've
Yeah.
experienced, so many attacks from these groups.
Right.
And this idea of them having a safe haven in Afghanistan,
That's
that's a huge threat to their national security.
Yeah.
So for you UPSC folks out there, understanding this historical context
Yes.
is really crucial for analyzing how India is approaching this whole thing.
Yeah, and I think that, for a lot of people, the question is,
Right.
so how is India actually addressing these concerns with the Taliban?
Right.
Because, they can't really force the Taliban to crack down on these groups, right?
Yeah, that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
India is using, I'd say it's kind of a multi-pronged strategy here. And one of the most important parts is humanitarian aid.
Mm-hmm.
They've been sending a lot of aid to Afghanistan.
Right.
I'm talking, huge quantities.
Okay.
50,000 metric tons of wheat,
Wow.
300 tons of medicines,
Okay.
materials for earthquake relief, even millions of doses of vaccines.
So it's not just about, easing the crisis there.
Not just that, no. This is also about India trying to maintain some leverage and influence.
Right. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
we're here to help the people,
Mm.
but we expect you to do something about these security concerns.
Exactly, yeah. There are strings attached.
Now, something else that caught my eye
Okay.
was this focus on the Chabahar port in Iran.
Yeah, Chabahar.
That seemed interesting.
This is a really smart move by India.
Okay.
Chabahar is this, vital trade route to Afghanistan.
Right.
And the best part, it completely bypasses Pakistan,
Oh, okay.
which is, a big deal.
Yeah.
Especially for our UPSC folks preparing for geography.
Yeah.
Imagine being able to point to Chabahar on the map
Right.
and actually explain its importance, in relation to India and Afghanistan.
Okay.
That's the kind of knowledge that really impresses those examiners.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just about the geography, though,
No,
right?
no, not at all.
It's got this big geopolitical angle as well.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when you consider that U.S. sanctions waiver
Right.
that lets India even use the port.
It's all about making sure they have access, keeping those trade lines open,
Yeah.
no matter what's happening politically in the region.
Now, in the middle of all this talk about security and, big trade deals and stuff,
Right.
there's this one thing that really surprised me.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
This whole cricket diplomacy thing.
Yeah, I saw that too. Interesting, right?
I was really surprised to see them discussing, boosting cricket ties
Yeah.
between the two countries.
it does seem a
Yeah.
little out of place, right?
It feels like this really soft power move compared to, all the heavy stuff we've been talking about.
Right. Mm.
But I guess it makes sense, when you think about how India has always supported Afghan cricketers
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
and how popular the sport is in both countries.
Yeah.
So maybe it's not that strange after all.
It's a way to, build that goodwill,
Right.
create those person-to-person connections,
Yeah.
which could have, a positive impact on their relationship as a whole.
Yeah.
And, for those of you who are interested in, international relations theory,
Right.
this is like a textbook example of soft power in action.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely an interesting part of this whole relationship
Right.
and something, we should all keep an eye on.
Yeah.
But I want to shift gears a bit here
Okay.
and address something our team pointed out,
Mm.
a pretty crucial omission, actually.
Okay.
In the official statements about this meeting,
Right.
there was absolutely no mention of the Taliban's human rights record,
Ooh.
especially when it comes to women and minorities.
That's a big one, yeah.
Yeah.
Considering all the attention, internationally, that's been focused on those restrictions,
Exactly.
on women's education and employment.
Yeah, it's a huge issue.
And it raises a really tough question for India.
Yeah.
How do you even begin to engage with a regime
Right.
that's so openly oppressive?
It's a tricky situation.
Yeah.
Really complicated, both diplomatically and ethically.
Right.
On one hand, India wants to, protect their interests, maintain that dialogue with the Taliban.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand,
Yeah.
there's this moral obligation, right,
Of course.
to uphold human rights
Yeah.
and speak out against these injustices.
So it's like
Yeah.
trying to find that balance
Yeah.
between, being practical
Hmm?
and sticking to your principles.
Exactly. And it's not easy.
No, not at all.
And I bet this is going to be a big topic of discussion,
Yeah.
in think tanks and policy circles in India.
Absolutely.
And it's something that could definitely show up on your UPSC Mains exam.
Really?
Think about it. You could be asked to, analyze India's whole approach,
Okay.
weighing those strategic benefits
Right.
against the ethical concerns.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And, for those of you prepping for the exam, it's so important to see the bigger picture here.
Absolutely.
This isn't just about India and the Taliban.
Right.
This is about a whole power struggle happening in the region.
Exactly. It's a whole regional power play
Yeah.
unfolding right in front of us.
So you've got Pakistan,
Right.
whose relationship with the Taliban is, well, let's just say it's complicated.
Complicated is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Then you've got Iran.
Right.
Their focus on Afghanistan has kind of decreased.
Oh.
Russia's tied up with the war in Ukraine.
Right.
Their influence is limited.
Mhm.
And of course, there's China, steadily growing their presence
Yeah.
with that Belt and Road Initiative.
It's like watching a game of chess
It really is.
with all these major players
Mhm.
making their moves,
Yeah,
trying to secure their own interests.
absolutely.
And India's right in the middle of it all,
Right in the thick of it.
trying to figure out these shifting alliances
Yeah.
and these power dynamics.
It's what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, a little nerve-wracking
A
too.
little bit. Yeah.
There's so many things happening.
Right.
It's hard to predict how it'll all play out.
Yeah.
What will be the long-term consequences
Right.
of India's engagement with the Taliban?
Yeah.
It's tough to say.
Okay. So for our UPSC folks out there who
Yeah.
might be feeling a little overwhelmed
I bet.
by all of this, let's break it down a bit.
Okay, good idea.
What are some of the key things they should be focusing on?
I'd say really try to understand why India is engaging in the first place.
Okay.
What's motivating them? What challenges are they facing?
Yeah.
And what could this all mean for the region as a whole?
Okay.
Like, the examiners might ask you to compare India's approach
Yeah.
to other regional powers, like Pakistan or China.
That's a good one.
Right.
Yeah.
Or they might ask you to analyze how India's using that humanitarian aid
Right.
as a diplomatic tool.
Right.
Is it actually effective?
Yeah.
Does it legitimize the Taliban?
Interesting.
These are the kind of questions that really test your knowledge, make
Yeah.
you think critically.
And don't forget the historical side of things, too.
Oh, absolutely. That's crucial.
Understanding how India's relationship with Afghanistan has evolved,
Mm-hmm.
going back even before the Taliban.
Right.
That's so important for context.
Yeah, it adds so much depth to your answers.
So for all our UPSC hopefuls,
Yeah.
this isn't just about memorizing facts and figures.
Yeah.
It's about understanding the complexity analyzing different viewpoints,
Right.
and forming your own well-reasoned arguments.
Yeah. That's exactly what the examiners are looking for.
That's it.
And one more thing.
Okay.
Don't shy away from the ethical dilemmas.
Right.
Can India balance their interests with their commitment to human rights?
Yeah.
This is a question that's going to be debated for a long time.
Right.
And it's one you should be prepared to tackle
Absolutely.
in your exam.
Okay, so I think we've covered quite a bit here.
We have, yeah.
From security and aid to even cricket diplomacy, and of course, those ethical dilemmas of working with the Taliban.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's clear that India is facing some really difficult choices when it comes to Afghanistan.
It really shows you just how complicated international relations can be.
Yeah.
Right?
It
There aren't always easy answers.
Right.
Every decision, has these potential consequences.
Absolutely, and I think that's a key takeaway for our UPSC folks.
Yeah, for sure.
You can't just state the facts.
Right.
You really need to show that you understand the motivations, the trade-offs,
The big picture.
the potential outcomes
Yeah,
of
exactly.
all of India's actions.
You got to connect the dots.
Now, one way to do that
Okay.
is to think about India's big goals in Afghanistan.
Right, their overall objectives.
What are they really trying to achieve,
Mm-hmm.
by working with the Taliban?
Good question.
Well, from what we've talked about,
Yeah.
it seems like their main focus
Right.
is protecting their own interests,
Yeah, makes sense.
preventing terrorism,
Hmm.
keeping things stable in the region,
Right.
keeping those trade routes open.
It's all connected.
These are all crucial for India,
Yeah,
for their security, for their economy.
absolutely.
But it's not just about self-interest either.
No, that's true.
India has a long history of helping Afghanistan.
Right, with development and aid.
They've invested in infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
in education, healthcare.
Things that directly benefit the Afghan people.
Yeah. So there's a humanitarian side to this as well. It's not just about, politics and strategy.
Right.
It's about trying to help a country
Yeah.
that's been through so much conflict,
Decades of it,
so much instability.
for sure.
And I think that's where the ethical part
Mm-hmm.
becomes even more important.
It gets tricky.
How do you balance those strategic interests
Right.
with the needs of the Afghan people?
Exactly.
Especially when you're dealing with,
Wow.
a regime like the Taliban.
With their human rights record.
It's a tough question.
It is.
And honestly, I don't think there's one right answer.
No, it's complex.
But I do think that by engaging with the Taliban,
Yeah.
even if it's controversial,
Mm-hmm.
India's at least trying
Right.
to find a way to make things better
To exert some influence.
and hopefully create a more stable and secure future
Yeah.
for Afghanistan and the whole region.
It's a long game.
It is.
And there will be bumps along the way.
Oh, absolutely.
But by understanding the history,
Mm-hmm.
the current situation.
All the different factors,
Yeah.
you'll be in a much better position
Okay.
to analyze this relationship and
Mhm.
form your own opinions.
And that's what the UPSC is all about, right?
That's exactly what they're looking for.
Well said. So, to all our listeners out there,
Yeah.
especially our UPSC folks,
Keep studying
stay curious,
Yeah.
keep learning.
Mm.
Don't be afraid to really dig deep.
into these tough topics.
And if you found this deep dive helpful,
Please hit that subscribe button.
yeah, give us a like.
It really helps us out.
Helps us reach more people.
More curious minds like yours.
Until next time,
Keep exploring
keep learning.
and keep diving deep.